Age-related hearing loss. The Minnesota Department of Human Services Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services Division has developed the following content to provide on-demand training that builds your understanding of people who are deaf, deaf-blind, hard of hearing, and late deafened. This series includes 5 topics and 1 community discussion panel. You may start with any of these videos and watch them as many times as you like. We also encourage you to share links to these videos with your family, friends, colleagues, and partners. This video focuses on age-related hearing loss. According to the National Council on Aging, good health ensures independence, security, and productivity for most older adults as they age. Age-related hearing loss is the 3rd most common chronic health condition affecting people over the age of 65. Only arthritis and heart disease are more common. This training module focuses on signs of age-related hearing loss, what to do if you suspect someone has a hearing loss, communication tips, solutions to common issues, and more. Age-related hearing loss is called presbycusis. It is the gradual loss of hearing in both ears and is a common problem linked to aging. Because of the gradual change in hearing, some people are not aware of the change at first. Most often, it affects the ability to hear high-pitched sounds, such as a phone ringing, or the beeping of a microwave, or birds chirping. Age-related hearing loss is often overlooked or minimized. In the United States, while about 1 in 5 people have hearing loss, 1 in 3 people between age 65 to 74 have hearing loss. Hearing loss impacts both safety and independence for many seniors. For example, what happens if I can't hear the oven timer and I cause a fire? What if I forget to turn off my water faucet because I didn't hear the water running? What if I can't hear a fire alarm or carbon monoxide detector going off? What if I can't hear the phone ring? Fortunately, there are many solutions and devices that can help people with hearing loss maintain their independence and safety. Age-related hearing loss poses other serious concerns, though. There is growing evidence that untreated hearing loss can lead to an increased risk of falls, hospitalizations, cognitive decline, and dementia. Remember, these risks are higher for people with untreated hearing loss.
How common is hearing loss among older adults in the United States? About 25% of people between the ages of 55 and 64. About 33% of people between the ages of 65 and 74. Nearly 50% of people over 75. Unfortunately, less than 1/3 of doctors mention hearing loss or hearing screening to their adult patients. One of the biggest impacts of hearing loss is the ability to communicate effectively and easily. Some signs of age-related hearing loss include having trouble distinguishing words that sound similar, responding incorrectly or inappropriately because the person misunderstands what was said, being able to hear what men say more clearly than what women and children are saying, turning to one side or cupping one ear to hear better, frequently responding with a smile or a nod, but not making further comments, having difficulty simply conversing in the car, not engaging to group discussion or family gatherings. In addition to communication difficulties, there are other likely consequences of untreated hearing loss. It is important to note that these have a strong correlation, but at this time it is not be said that any or all of these increased risks will occur. However, the research is compelling. Research has shown that people with untreated hearing loss experience increased social isolation, depression, and anxiety, having a 3 times higher risk of falling are a third more likely to be admitted to the hospital, rely on community or family support more than their peers who treated their hearing loss, tend to experience problems with reasoning and memory up to 30 to 40% sooner than their peers with normal hearing. That is an average of 3.2 years sooner. Have an increased risk of developing dementia. The risk of dementia increases with the severity of the hearing loss. People with untreated mild hearing loss are 2 times more likely to develop dementia. Those with untreated moderate hearing loss are 3 times more likely to develop dementia, and those with untreated severe hearing loss are 5 times more likely to develop dementia. Researchers believe the increased risk of problems with reasoning and memory associated with untreated hearing loss may be related to an increased mental load, social isolation, and the cascading effect that untreated hearing loss has on brain function, because hearing loss impacts the auditory portion of the brain, as well as learning and memory.
Since we know that only 16 to 33% of physicians mention hearing loss or hearing screening to their adult patients, it's usually up to the older adult, their family members, or caregivers to notice and address the hearing loss. The first step for a person experiencing hearing loss is to work with a hearing health specialist, such as an audiologist, to address hearing changes early before hearing loss impacts the person's long-term health. Verify that the person has hearing loss. Explain the hearing loss. Evaluate how hearing loss affects the person. Recommend appropriate treatment, coping strategies, and/or auxiliary aids and assistive technology. The most common recommendation is to invest in hearing aids. However, assistive technology is also important. Hearing assistive technology helps people with hearing loss live more independently and safely. Many helpful products are low to moderately priced. Some, like some apps, are free. Prices vary depending on the options and quality. Assistive listening devices use a microphone to pick up sound and send the amplified sound to the ear through headphones or earbuds. Assistive listening devices can be helpful when using the phone, talking with friends and family, watching television, listening to music, going to the theater, participating in worship services, and more. Assistive listening devices can be used with or without hearing aids. Alerting devices use a flashing light, extra loud sounds, or vibrations to alert the person with hearing loss to various environmental noises, such as doorbells, fire alarms, and carbon monoxide detectors. Amplified phones offer greater volume control as well as frequency boosting to make speech both louder and more clear. Caption telephones allow the person with hearing loss to listen to the caller and read the transcribed message on the captioned telephone screen. Smartphone apps are available to amplify speech, react to environmental sounds, transcribe spoken speech to text, and more. It's also important to develop communication strategies. When the speaker, the listener, and the environment all work together, communication is often much more successful. Here are some simple strategies that you can use to communicate effectively with a person who has age-related hearing loss. Tips for the speaker. Do not assume that the person hears or understands everything you say, even if wearing a hearing aid. Be sure to get the listener's attention before you start speaking. Make sure the listener can see your face and mouth. Get into the communication zone. Ideally, this is within about 3 feet of the listener. Talk slightly slower and say each word in a precise, fully formed manner. Enunciate and articulate. Talk slightly louder, but don't shout. Pause between key words and phrases. Try not to use contractions. Do not eat, smoke, chew gum while you are talking. Do not cover your mouth or turn your face away from the person while talking. If necessary, repeat what you are trying to communicate. Be patient with yourself and your communication partner.
Tips for listeners with hearing loss. Acknowledge your hearing loss. There is nothing to be embarrassed about, and you will find it easier to get the information you need. Tell your communication partners what would be helpful, for your communication habits can be hard to break. Do not be afraid to remind people how to best communicate with you. Ask for clarification. Do not guess. Try different strategies. Remember, hearing loss varies by person, and communication options are not a one-size-fits-all solution. Do not give up. Try new ways of communicating, or try a combination of options until you find what works best for you. Tips for the environment. Pick the right place to communicate. Choose smaller spaces with soft furniture. Make sure you can see each other clearly without barriers. If something is in the way, move it if you can, or find another place without obstacles. Good lighting helps communication. Turn on the lights and make sure the speaker does not have light coming from behind them. This can make it difficult to see the speaker, especially if the person with hearing loss also has age-related vision loss. If possible, ask one person to speak at a time. Try to avoid spaces with background noise. Use an assistive listening device to amplify the person speaking. Sit closer to the person speaking.
Remember that every person experiences their hearing loss differently. 2 people may have the same hearing loss, but they may identify themselves differently, and they may communicate very differently. They may use assistive technology, or they may use visual communication, or both, or none of these. Make no assumptions about the person, their hearing loss, and how it impacts them or how it may not impact them. If you have a hearing loss and need to see your doctor or other providers, you can ask for accommodations to communicate effectively. Accommodations can include simple things like making sure the doctor looks at you while speaking, or CART, real-time captions for people who cannot hear and understand speech. These accommodations are rights guaranteed to people who have hearing loss by law. For more information about what accommodations are and what your rights are, watch Understanding Hearing Loss for Healthcare Providers. You can see other videos in this training by returning to the home page. You can also reach out to us at mn.gov/deaf-hard-of-hearing.
Copyright 2022, State of Minnesota, Department of Human Services. Produced by Minnesota Department of Human Services, Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services Division. 444 Lafayette Road, St. Paul, Minnesota 55155. Voice or preferred relay service 800-657-3663. Video phone 651-964-1514. Website mn.gov/deaf-hard-of-hearing. The Minnesota Department of Human Services, DHS, prohibits discrimination in its public services because of race, color, creed, religion, political beliefs, national origin, sex, public assistance status, marital status, age, sexual orientation, or disability. Direct discrimination complaints to DHS Civil Rights Coordinator at dhs.info@state.mn.us or 651-431-2000. People with disabilities may request reasonable modifications to receive DHS services by contacting its Americans with Disabilities Act coordinator at DHS_ADA@state.mn.us or 651-431-3040.